Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies. I don't know about you, but I am very excited for the upcoming release of World Eaters. And I thought, what better way to kind of feed the fire than to start the army off? So, of course, the Kharn the Betrayer model was only released a couple of years ago, so I'm fairly safe in the knowledge that he's not going to change. So I'm going to paint up this guy here on the video today. Hopefully get my World Eater scheme locked in for when the rest of the range drops in the coming months. Kharn the Betrayer is a model that I have always wanted to paint, so I am glad to finally get the opportunity. If you see the chains hanging off his axe arm, I actually did not like those extra kind of tassely dangling chains, so I cut them off. I just didn't like them. I thought it gives the model a better silhouette, and I'd imagine this axe-wielding maniac wouldn't want to be slowed down by a bunch of chains wrapped around his arm. After spraying the model black and then grey sear, we started off with the contrast Flesh Tears Red, and we applied this to all of the armor. Now normally I would tell you to take your time, get all the right parts that are supposed to be red, and try not to hit anything else because you don't want that showing through in other base coats. But one step that I want to make sure I do here is with that Flesh Tears Red contrast, I want to hit all of the trim as well. Red is an absolutely beautiful base coat for gold, so there's no need to be careful in trying to get around all the trim. Just paint all that red as well. It will actually help you in the long run and obviously speed up the entire process of getting that first color on. There are still parts that you don't want to hit with Flesh Tears Red, such as his naked arm, those tassels coming down from his helmet, which is another piece of his design that I'm not really sure why they're there. And things like skulls, things like those are going to be too bright, so if you do hit them with red, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare afterwards. And this is what the red stage should look like. You can see where I have hit and where I haven't hit. After that, we're going to jump over to Guilliman Flesh contrast and just basically knock in that color scheme for his arm. One nice smooth coat. That's all we need. We'll be layering it up later on. He has very little skin on show. Like I said, it is just his kind of shoulder muscle, his bicep, and then it goes down to his hand. The rest is covered in chain. After that, we're going to move over to Black Templar. And there's a bunch of small details in this miniature here with the Black Templar. So all the soft seals in between all the armor need a quick coat of it. Then there's some cabling which connects his plasma pistol to his armor. And there's some piping that goes through his actual naked arm. Make sure you get all that. And just a few other bits and pieces. It can be a little bit tricky trying to find all the right spots, and I definitely missed one or two and had to go back later on and fill them back in with the black. So maybe the Games Workshop website 360 of this guy would be useful for you guys to follow along with. But it's once again, it's just one of those quick steps just to black in all those bits and pieces. Obviously there's parts on his chain axe as well that you need to knock in with the black. Then it's time for the gold stage. Now this is by far the most kind of tedious stage. We all know what trim on Chaos Space Marine models is like, and World Eaters are no different. There's quite a lot of trim. It does complement the red very, very nicely. So just take your time and get a nice base coat of gold on all of the trim and parts where they are supposed to be gold. We're not going to be spending a lot of time on this in the layering stage. Actually, we're going to be doing a cheeky dry brush, which some of you may scream at when I do, but follow through. You'll see the final result and see how much it helped with timing of the miniature. Like I said, there's nothing to say about this except for buckle in and get it done. There's so much gold trim. But of course, this is a very ornate character. It's the first captain of the World Eaters. He's been fighting on battlefields for 10,000 years, so he's going to have a little bit of swag to him. So hopefully the regular World Eaters range when they're released won't have quite as much trim, and we can get this stage done faster than that. As you can see, the amount of gold now. From here we're going to move over to Lead Belcher, and we're going to knock in all the other metallics on the armor. So that goes for all of the chains hanging off him, connecting the skulls to his armor. There's also some of the mechanism of the plasma pistol, not the outer casing. The outer casing is that black color, so we're going to leave that alone. but the inner workings of it are kind of a silver color. So I'm going to hit that as well. As well as that big ball of chains around his arm. This is where those other chains hung from. Like I said, I wasn't a big fan of those. I never was. So I just cut them off. And here's that kind of underbelly of the gun that I was talking about. Next, we're going to use Khârn sand to basically block in all of the bone parts that are built into his armor. So on both of his knees, in his like gut plate, and on the vents on his jump pack are all these giant big skull motifs, as well as any and all skulls hanging off the miniature. You're going to give the like base coat of Khârn sand. After that, we're going to use Thunderhawk blue as a very quick first coat on the tassels. At this point in painting these, I really didn't know what my plan was for the tassels. On the box art, they're blue, but they're also this weird glowing blue, and I don't know why tassels are glowing. So I'm just going to darken them down with some Thunderhawk blue, and then I'll figure out what I want to layer them with later on. Okay, that's all the base coats applied to Kharn the Betrayer. So the next thing I'm going to do is throw a shade over it. And I couldn't think of any better shade than the Berserker Blood shade, one of the new ones. I thought that's going to complement the gold and the red really well. It's going to work on the skin beautifully. And anything else is just going to give that nice tint of red, which I think screams World Eater. So I think that'll work beautifully. While the shade was drying on this miniature, I took my time. I got the whole thing based as well. So that when I go into this layering stage now, we're working towards finishing off the miniature. As you can see, it dried beautifully. It really suits the tone. If you're needed to really speed paint an army, you could by all means leave your World Eaters at that stage, and I don't think anybody would be upset. But from here on in, we're going to try and do a bit more detail. So I'm going to start with an Iron Breaker, and I'm just going to dry brush this across all of the gold. And that will be the last step on the gold. It's going to highlight that beautifully. Now, it will hit some of the red, and it'll hit some of the skin, and it'll hit some of the other parts. Because it's dry brushing, it's only going to hit the raised parts of other parts, if that makes sense. So if I accidentally hit across his arm, it's only going to be like the top of the musculature that's going to get hit with some silver, which is the part that's going to get layered later on, so it won't make a difference. It's not like it's going to go into all the shadowed recesses and kind of nooks and crannies. Big dry brush across the face, catching those big bunny ears. Like I said, this is a stage that some people may think that I'm crazy, but I promise you, just follow through till the end. It will be a very nice result. And instead of spending 20 minutes highlighting gold, I did this in 30 seconds, and I really like how the gold turned out. Like I said, if you're doing a competition piece, maybe you just want to do Khârn for your shelf, then by all means take your time and layer up the... If you want to do an army, like I plan on doing, then this way is going to be a lot better. After that, we're going to work up those red panels again. So Khârn red is going to be the first one to build it up. And like the blue stage with the tassels, I didn't know whether I was going to leave it at the Khârn stage kind of before I did it. But I thought the Khârn stage was very nice. It suited it, but it just didn't have that kind of oomph, the kind of eye-popping. It did when it was wet like this, but as soon as it dried, it just went that really dark color, which is nice. But I decided that I would just hit it with one more layer, and I would just take it up to Mephiston red. Just to make it really pop. I really do hope we start to see the rest of the World Eaters range drop sometime early 2023. I'm very much looking forward to them. So just a quick nice highlight then of the Mephiston red to make the red pop even more. And the result is this, which I think is much more World Eaters-esque. After that, we're going to grab Black Templar again and just go back over all those pipings. We're going to darken them down again. Because it's not completely opaque, the silver dry brush will actually act like a kind of like a highlight to these. The black will darken down, but the silver will still show through on some of the parts and look really cool. There's also a few extra bits that I missed the first time I was doing the Black Templaring, like the pipes on the side of his helmet. So I want to make sure I got back in and got those tidied up. After that, I went back to Taller and Sand. We're going to relayer the skulls. Obviously, we've darkened them down quite a lot with the Berserker Bloodshade. So we're going to add a very quick highlight or layer of Taller and Sand again. And then we're going to jump over to Ushabti Bone to give all of the bone work on this miniature its last layer and finish it off. So like I said, onto Ushabti Bone. Basically the same step again, just a lighter layer. So leaving as much of the Taller and Sand behind in all the dark areas of the bone. Painting these under parts was a pain. The camera did not want to focus down because he's kind of running forward. It's almost like a V between the base and his legs up to the knees. Just shadow. So there is all the bone layered up. As you can see, it's quite a lot. Turned out quite nice. We're going to go back to Ironbreaker, and instead of a dry brush, we're going to use this as a layer just to touch up some of the other parts that we want to pop on the model. So once again, all those extra parts of the pistol, plus all of the chains that are hanging off his armor, we're going to give them a nice little layer. Nothing too fancy. Just a nice quick step which will make these kind of key features of Khârn pop a little bit more. Obviously the Mica Dragon teeth that make up his chain axe should probably have been bone. But in all the reference pictures I saw them on silver, which I thought was weird. Do Mica Dragons have silver teeth? I'm not really sure. As you can see, the layering I'm doing across the chains is almost like a dry brush. Just dragging it across. More like an overbrush, if that makes sense. And definitely not layering link by link on the chain. That would take far too much time. When we were on that last step, the Ironbreaker, we also did layer in all of the eyes on this miniature. And you may be wondering why I said eyes, because obviously we talked about the eyes on his helmet. His plasma pistol actually has 4 eyes. And then the skulls in his knees and his gut plate have eyes. And on all of the reference pictures, these are all glowing green. So we're going to follow through with that. So we gave those kind of like the eyeballs a quick highlight of silver, so that we add a contrast later on, it'll really stand out. Cadian flesh tone was used to layer up all of the skin. Obviously I was talking over it, but the Corvus Black stage was just to tidy up the casing of the pistol. There's not really much else black wise on this miniature. The casings on the weapon, so the power belt on the back of the chain axe, and the casing around his plasma pistol. Cadian flesh tone was used to layer up his bulging muscles. After that, we're going to jump over to Talazar Blue. And we're going to use this for the power coils on his plasma pistol. I hope you guys can see how this is coming together at the end. And agree that that dry brush stage with the gold was a valid step. It definitely did its job. We're going to jump over to Khârn screen. That's for all the eyes I was talking about in this miniature. So not just the ones in his helmet, but all the ones on all the other parts of the miniature as well. I don't know whether they're supposed to represent like just gemstones or something built into his armor, or whether parts of his armor are demonic and these eyes are literally seeing things. I'm not really sure. You're never really sure with Khârn. He's quite a mysterious character. The fang was the color I decided to go for to finish off those tassels. It's a really like kind of muted bluey gray, so there's a bit of color there, but it's not going to draw your attention too much. Not as much as the weird glowing ones that they decided to go with. And for the final touch, I'm going to add some blood for the blood god. And I'm just going to add this across the axe. I was tempted to do like blood flecks all over his, like, you know, front of his armor and his face and his arm and stuff. Really add all the blood effect to him, like I think he would do. Because that's not everyone's cup of tea, I'm just going to stick with the axe for now. I might personally come back later on and add it. But for now, this is how I'm going to leave Khârn. This is my final result. I am really happy with how he looks. Like I said, it's nice to have that one piece. I'll clear off one of my shelves and put him on it. And that's like a holder for the World Eaters army that's going to be dropping very, very soon. Okay guys, and there we have it, a Kharn the Betrayer, fully painted and ready to claim skulls for the Blood God. As you can see, I toned his armor down quite a lot. I don't like the images that we're seeing of the new World Eaters where they seem to be in like Blood Angel's red colored armor. To me, that's not the color they should be. I think they should definitely be more of a darker crimson color. So that's what I tried to replicate in these videos here today. So I hope you guys did enjoy that. If you did, make sure you let me know in the comments below if you think I nailed the armor color or whether I made a mess of it or not. Make sure you hit the like button as well if you enjoyed it. And if you want to support me and help the channel grow even further, two best ways to do that is one, hit that subscribe button. It means the world to me and it only takes 2 seconds out of your day. And two, if you want to help me in a bigger and crazier way, there's links to things like my Patreon below, which will be getting a large overhaul in January. So there's never been a better time to get involved. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.